Good morning and welcome back to the show. We are here with senior varsity captain of both golf and hockey, Ethan Roberts. How are you, Ethan?
I'm great. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for being on.
Show.
I think we want to start off all the way to how you came to US. What was your journey like to come to US?
Yeah, so I started at US way back in the fourth grade. I went to Onaway, which is a Shaker public school, for the beginning years of my life, and my sister, who's 2 years older than me, went to HB in the fourth grade. So it was just a logical transition for me to come to US in the fourth grade as well. I guess to follow suit with what my sister did. And that year we did the Whalen trip and all that, so it was just a really great year to enter. And moved through middle school. My end of my middle school life was a little bit weird with COVID, so I didn't really get that full eighth grade experience or anything like that. But high school was a little bit back to normal, and I just had a great experience so far, and that's what kept me here for sure. I think a lot of kids can come into middle school and end up making a decision to leave, but that wasn't the case for me and for a lot of my good friends. I really liked it, so I stayed.
I know obviously you stayed here just senior year, and I know you recently decided to go to Wake Forest for college. Congrats, by the way.
Thank you.
What chose you to kind of pick Wake Forest and more
Yeah.
specifically choose finance?
Yeah, so my mom's in finance, so that was kind of the early indicator that I wanted to do something like that. I just learned a lot from her about, I guess, her career path and what she did in college and beyond. So I was just really interested in it. And so that was kind of picking my major first off. I kind of knew going into the college process that that's what I wanted to do. So I visited a ton of schools, obviously. Northeast, I visited a bunch of schools in North Carolina, so UNC, I saw UVA in Virginia, things like that. And I think Wake you stood out to me as just I guess that sort of Goldilocks syndrome, where it's not too small and it's not too big. It's got Power 5 sports, so they play the best teams in the country. Great athletics to go watch, and overall just a really great community. And then, the academics are still very strong, and the social scene is great. So I think it's just the best of every world scenario, and I guess that really stood out to me. And then I spent a week there this past summer doing a finance and investing program in the business building and learning from one of the heads of the Finance Institute. So I got to spend a week down there in the dorms to kind of confirm my suspicion that I really wanted to go there, and I loved it. So yeah.
Sounds like there's a lot to choose from, but what are you most excited for going to Wake?
Gosh, I really don't know. I think I'm more just excited to go to college. To just meet so many new people and learn so many new things. I've had the same friends at US for years now, and I'm ready to kind of, branch out a little bit. And then Wake especially, they have such an interesting program called the Pre-Wall Street track in their business school, where you can get selected in your class. It's about 30 people who are finance majors. And you get to interview with real alums who work on Wall Street in big four firms, big companies. And so I think that's really just a boost to the career, and I'm really excited to kind of start on that track and, hopefully make it into that program. So.
I know you're not committed to play sports at Wake Forest, but you've obviously been a big sports kid throughout your entire high school. I know you're a golf and hockey player. What really got you into playing those sports?
Yeah, I started playing golf and hockey basically when I could walk. I played baseball too growing up until high school, so 3 sports basically my whole life until high school. I remember just picking up a club. My dad didn't play golf, my mom didn't play golf, and my dad just gave me a plastic club one day. There's a photo of me out there when I was 2 years old, walking around with a plastic club. And then we were originally members at the Cleveland Skating Club, where I would play hockey, and they merged with Shaker Heights Country Club when I was 6. So that's when I really started to be able to play golf, because I had access to the facilities. I met all the coaches and stuff like that. So I just love the game. I think it's just so peaceful and relaxing to be out there in the sun in the summer. And now as I've gotten older, I get to play with my best friends every day out in the sun in the summer. So I think that's where I got into golf really just early with my dad. And I just stayed in it throughout my whole life. And then hockey, I actually don't really know the backstory about how I got into hockey, but I just put skates on one day. I started in figure skating, actually, which I think is a pretty common trend. So I was a figure skater until I was 6 or 7, and then started playing mite hockey, and then moved up through mite to Pee Wee to Bantam, and now in high school. So.
And golf is definitely a peaceful game, but when you play it competitively, it can get hard, right?
Yeah.
And playing baseball, I know how hard it is to play a sport that is difficult and involves a lot of failure. So what's the biggest lesson that you've been able to take away from golf?
Yeah, I think golf is just such an emotional game, especially in the competitive scene. Like you said, it's just such a mentally toughening game. So I think just controlling emotions and acting the same in every moment is what I've learned. So when you hit a really great shot, to not get, too happy, to not realize, to then realize you have to go execute on the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one, and that, you know, you don't really tally up your score until the round's over. So staying in the moment. And then also I think golf has taught me a lot about coming back from bad moments. And obviously, like, I've had my fair share of meltdowns on the golf course, I will say. And, you know, especially as a younger kid, you don't really understand the importance of like keeping your cool and moving on. And as I've gotten older, I've kind of emphasized in my golf game what it means to, like, I guess how special it is to be able to hit a bad shot and then recover from it on the next one. And to like we call it a 10-step rule. So you have 10 steps to dwell and to be angry about the last shot. And then after those 10 steps, you have to move on, because you have, you know, a bunch of shots ahead of you, a bunch of hard holes that require a bunch of mental focus, just like you had to have on the last shot, which didn't go as planned. But I think I just learned a lot about rebounding and staying in the moment and staying present through everything. So.
How do you feel that like that emotion is played into not only golf but into hockey too? I mean, I really got into hockey watching your guys' high school team last year. And watching kids just hit each other just to hit each other, right? Sometimes. How do you kind of control those emotions when you're just in the game, in the moment?
Yeah. Hockey's a lot different just because it's so much more adrenaline focused and obviously like way faster pace. It's not even comparable. So, but I think there are a lot of parallels between, like, you make bad plays in hockey, but the nice thing about hockey versus golf is you have 4 other kids and a goalie on the ice to back you up, and then golf you really just have yourself. But it's also just like the adrenaline rush of everything. You're just so focused on every little thing, you know, being the first guy on the puck, laying a body, getting the puck, moving it to your teammate, getting it on net, and then getting off and getting a breath. And it's just, I think staying present in the moment, like I said in golf, it is very true for hockey as well. Like, you're going to make mistakes. You're probably going to miss a net, and then you have to back check on the other end. And kids can choose how they want to react. You know, if you make a bad play, turn a puck over and stand there and throw your arms in the air, then you're doing yourself and your teammates a disservice. But if you stay in the moment and realize I can still back check, go get this puck, give it to my teammate and get off the ice and, you know, do some good on the shift, then, you know, you're doing the right thing. So I think that's just, I guess, how they translate a little bit. Is just hockey's a little bit different because you have a bunch of teammates. And I'd say making mistakes is a little bit easier, not only because you have teammates to back you up, but also because you're so eager to go do something right for them. Versus in golf, it's really just yourself. So,
and you guys had an amazing team last year, obviously making it all the way to the state finals. What made you guys so successful, other than the obvious talent?
Yeah, we made the state final the last 2 years, and fell in both games, which definitely stung. But last year, I think we had 36 wins and 4 losses, which was a school record by 5 wins, and really didn't experience much like turmoil or adversity, because when we found ourselves in the tough games and like in the tough situations, you could look at the guy next to you and rely on him to make a play. No matter who it was, like if it was Sam Wade next to me, he's like arguably the best player in program history, I'm 100% confident that can make a play. Or if standing next to me is Pat, who is a sophomore, who's still a great player, like I'm confident Pat's going to go make a play. And so I think honestly there's just such a bond between each other. Not necessarily as like being best friends or, you know, being teammates, but just like having a trust with one another off the ice that stays on the ice, that, you know, plays are going to be made in the toughest of times. We know that we're going to make plays. So last year, we just finished up the Jamestown tournament this year. Last year in the semifinal, we were down 2-0, and Sam Wade scored 4 goals straight. And like we came back and won that game. And I think we found ourselves in those situations a lot. You're like in a dogfight. You know, Shaker last year at home, we were tied 1-1 through a period. And you like look at the guy next to you, he's like, what are we gonna do? Like, and then we came out and won the game by a lot. And I think that was just so special to just realize that we were never out. Like we could be down, maybe had a bad period or a bad couple shifts, but I think that's what made that team so good, is there was just no quit factor. There was just such a compete. So talent aside, everybody just wanted it so badly.
I know you talk about the idea of like looking to your left and seeing someone saying, what were you going to do? I know that takes a little bit of leadership to kind of tell that person, this is what we're going to do next. Now, as captain of the hockey team this year, what are some of those leadership traits that you hope to carry over from last year's team, and maybe some new ones that you kind of think you'll bring?
Yeah, I definitely learned a lot from Luca and Kellen 2 years ago about what it means to be a captain at US, especially in the hockey program, and yes, a little bit of tips and tricks from them. I was on the phone with Luca a couple weeks ago, just looking for some advice, and I think the best things I've learned so far, I've captained 11 games now, is that to have kids understand and listen to you and want to play for you, not only for themselves, but play for you, you really have to understand who they are. And that's like a thing that's off the ice. Like that starts completely off the ice. It's I guess earning their respect off the ice. So I've tried to be friends with everybody, take interest in their hobbies and what what they do outside of hockey, so that when we're on the ice together, when they make a mistake, I can go up to them and be like, sure, this is what we have to do better. Like last game, we couldn't break the puck out of the zone. They scored a goal. We have to start breaking pucks out, just as an example. And it's just that factor of like holding somebody accountable and them not thinking I'm just like yelling at them. Them understanding that it's my job to hold everybody accountable, but also that they can hold me accountable. So I look to guys like Mitch and Gavin, and I'm still a player as a captain, and I think that's something that's really important to understand is when you're losing games, you're just as a part of that as anybody else. And so when we scored 0 goals against Gilmore, you lose 1-0 and you feel like you played a great game defensively because they only scored 1 goal. And then you look around, it's like, why can't we score any goals? It's like, I need to score goals too. So to have that sort of like self-accountability and have everybody in the room see that, I guess is just makes everybody respect you a little bit more. And that I think that's where the leadership starts, just from respect. And then you take that onto the ice. I said, like, trusting each other. And I think once you've established that respect and that understanding that, I could make a mistake, but I know the kid behind me is gonna make up for it. And when he makes a mistake, I owe it to him to make it up for when he made up my mistake. Things like that. So I think those, I guess, are the slight things I've learned so far. And, obviously I have a bunch of games to go, and I'm sure I'll learn a lot. But, yeah.
Something unique about you is that, this is shifting gears a little here, but you're a part of the Glee Club. So when did you first start singing? Because the Glee Club is the singing group at US.
Yeah, I played cello my whole life until it was about like in the 7th or 8th grade. And I had been singing for a while at that point. I started in the high tops, or I started, I guess, with Ms. Matthews, who was my 4th grade choir teacher. And she was the first person I ever really sung with. And I think, Charlie, you probably experienced that. And then I moved through middle school with Mr. Hollings, who was the dean of students of the middle school and did his high tops choir. And then my mom's always been a great singer, and my sister did choir. So I was like, I really like this. I'm having a good time. I'm meeting a lot of new people who I wouldn't meet normally, like kids that I don't play sports with and things like that. So I got to spend time with them in middle school, and then in high school, it was kind of a no-brainer for me. It was just something I really wanted to do. So I started out in university singers with Mr. Singer, who actually left now, and then moved to the Glee Club in US Acapella for the last 3 years. So.
I know one of the things that Jack and I constantly talk about, right, and it's asked a lot on our podcast, but what is your why? Like, what drives and motivates people kind of through the happiest moments and even their worst? What does that kind of motivation look for you?
Yeah, I think my motivation is really unrelated to like anything to do with sports or school. It's just, I feel like I've been given so much in my life. Like, I live in a very nice home with 2 very successful parents, well-educated. I go to US, the number 1 school in Ohio, and I'm going to Wake Forest next year, and it's like a very expensive university, and I get the things that I want. Like, it sounds snobby, but it's true, and I recognize that, and I have so much gratitude for it. And I think my why is, JFK, and I think the quote's been tossed around. He said, "To whom much is given, much is expected." And I try to like embody that with just how much I've been given, the opportunities I've been given that 99% of the world isn't given. I think it's almost a duty for me to like uphold these things, to try every new thing I can, to try in school, to try in sports. I owe it to myself, but I also owe it to everybody that's ever done anything for me. So my parents, my coaches that have been unbelievable mentors, for my friends, my teammates, my family, my sister, all these things. I've just had such a special life, I feel like, so far, that I think that's my why, is just to, I guess, kind of cash in on the gifts I've been given and really kind of, provide for my kids, I guess, the same way my parents provided for me, hopefully one day. So, yeah.
Who are some of those teachers or mentors that at US that have helped shape you?
Yeah, there's definitely a few. First of all, Mr. Sayre, obviously, he's been my sponsor for the last 2 years after Ms. Lawrence, who's my sponsor freshman and sophomore year, left. And then he's been an active member of the golf team for a couple of years, then became the head coach this year. He definitely has had probably the biggest impact on me. He always holds me accountable when my grades are slipping. And But he's also the first one to like help me with those sorts of things. So I remember last year, junior year spring, you guys are about to go, or I guess you guys are sophomores, but you'll go through it eventually. It's really a pain because you have to take AP exams and finals, and you start doing college process and all that. And so he like crafted this whole study schedule for me. And when I was trying to get recruited for golf at the D3 level, like he helped me reach out all the coaches. He helped me take calls, take visits, whatever it needed to be. And I think he just played such an active role in my interests that he had a huge impact on me. And then obviously Coach Giroux as well is probably like one of the most motivational guys in the world. His speeches are quite legendary and, you know, can really make you want to go run through a wall for him. But he's also just a really nice guy. He's another person who always asks me what I'm doing, what I'm up to, you know, off the ice. And then on the ice, you know, he's all business and we're all business. It's all compete. But, you know, he's definitely not like that 24/7. You know, you can have a great conversation with him. And I've learned a lot from him about leadership as well these last couple of years. And then I say teacher-wise, there's 3 teachers that really stick out to me. They were all teachers in my junior year: Dr. Bonin, Mr. Brian Perry, and Dr. Folds. I think just understood who I was so much more than who I was as a student, meaning like they had an interest in my personal life and what I was doing. And Dr. Folds especially is like the most enthusiastic guy in the world. And so I'd be sitting there like first period on a Monday morning and he's like grinning, smiling. He's probably up at 5 for a run and just so much energy in the room that it made it really fun to be there. Then Dr. Bonin, I had my sophomore and junior year, and his class was like unbelievably interesting. There was never a day where I was bored. I was always attentive. I never wanted to be anywhere else when I was in this class. And I'm extremely grateful that I had him for not only 1, but 2 years. And then Mr. Perry, I don't think I've ever had a teacher go to so many lengths to help me because I've never really been a big math guy. And I was put in his calc class, his 80 calc class as a junior. And I like definitely struggled. And especially at the beginning during the golf season where you miss so many days of school, I was like not doing well. But he like reached out to me and I met with him outside of school a ton to study for the AP exam. I would go up to school on Sunday with a study group from like 8 to 12 and he'd always be there. And he just took such an active role in that class, and I think that's why he had a huge impact on me as teachers.
And I have all 3 of those teachers. Do you also?
Yeah, same here. So
I can attest they're amazing teachers and people.
Yeah.
You know, another thing we all share a common bond between is we're all McKinley House. What do you think the house system kind of really brings to US and makes it so special? And what do you think could actually even be changed to make it even better?
Yeah, so I've been in McKinley House since I came to US. You know, I didn't make any changes. I love McKinley House. I love everything about it. Love the color blue. Love the tradition and all the prefects. And I still remember like when I was a little kid, you know, in the 4th or 5th grade coming up to the high school and hearing Mr. Lewis scream brain over brawn because we weren't doing too hot on Founders Day and just talking about like the value of brains. But that's just kind of a funny thing I remember. But I think the house system is such a great way to integrate kids in the community extremely easy. So like a new freshman and I guess new students, they're put in your house and those are almost the first people you meet. And so right away, you already have a bunch of people that you have a common bond with, like you said. And we have, you know, 30, 40 other kids in McKinley House that we also share that bond with. So I think right away, just at face value, the house system is a family at school. And then obviously Founders Day and traditions like that and the House Cup is special. And those days are always unbelievably fun. But I think the house system could play such an active role at US, and it already does play a pretty active role in just like having house meetings on Fridays, you know, house lunches, Founders Day, house like food drive and clothing drives like we just did for McKinley House. I think they could play such an active role in keeping the community together in a sort of sense that like although we compete against each other in Founders Day and like the House Cup and all that, it's just such a way to like value the history of US and also like look towards the future. Like, you know, Roland McKinley I'm in his house. Like that's pretty cool to say, right? And kids can say it for Newton Anderson and things like that. So it's just like upholding the values of the people that made us where we are today. I think that's why it's really special.
I have a very interesting question for you. So you've been through countless dances in your time in high school. And so for anyone that needs advice on how to pick up a date to a school dance, what would you say?
I'd say it really depends on how well you know the person you're trying to go on a date with. But I would avoid the sign and the candy and the flowers. I think that's a hot take, but I I guess all my dates, I think I did assign maybe one time, but I guess all my dates is people I guess took to prom and homecoming have just been, over the phone. But there was one time where I did assign and I did flowers. I did it in person and it was special, but I definitely sweated it out a little bit. It was a little nerve wracking. But I'd say just be yourself, and I'd say make sure you know the person first. If it's someone you're being introduced to, I'd hang out with them a couple of times before you go to the dance, especially to prom, because prom's till like 3 in the morning and everybody's tired. So, tensions are high and you're with that person for like 8 hours. So you really have to make sure that, you know who they are and are friends with them. So yes, that's my biggest piece of advice is know the person first, and then make sure you can spend 8 hours with them, and then, just shoot your shot.
Well, Ethan, I mean, it's been a really, really good episode on here. It's been really nice getting to know you better. To finish the episode off, if you could tell fourth grade younger Ethan Roberts or any kid in your position on the first day of school all that time ago, what would it be?
I would tell little Ethan Roberts or a first kid to trust your abilities, to trust what you have, that you're here for a reason. You have a village of people that want to help you and behind you, and to never really get scared or stressed when times get tough, and just understand that you can do it. I think a lot of times in my high school career, especially, like maybe I'm studying for a big test and I'm like, oh, I'm going to fail. Like there's no way I pass this test. And then everything works out in the end. And I think that's a little bit of the advice I gave to the freshmen who are about to take midterms. I was like, just trust yourself, trust who you are, and, kind of just do your thing, perform, and things will go well. So.
Wow. Thank you so much, Ethan.
Thank you for having
the great interview and so many great insights and stories. To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope you'll join us next Wednesday for another episode of Late Start Show. Thanks, Ethan.
Thank you.